accepted to talk, and despite being unwell today, she has accepted that she is going to give the talk because we have so many registrations and we are very eager and keenly waiting to hear ma'am. Just to give a brief introduction about Dr. Hemalatha, she has played a vital role in developing the nutrient requirements for the Indian population, EAR-RDA 2020, the Dietary Guidelines for Indians 2024, and My Plate for the Day. As an expert member of the NFSA committee, she was instrumental in drafting the Schedule 2 of the NFSA 2023. She served as the president of NSI, the chairman of the National Committee for the International Union of Nutrition Sciences. She has received on behalf of ICMR-NIN the Dr. Keshav Baliram Hejware Arogya Ratna Award from Rethink India Institute, Delhi, for releasing the Dietary Guidelines for Indians 2024, which will bolster preventive healthcare in India. She has also received the Esteemed Lifetime Achievement Award for the Federation of the Asian Nutrition Societies and the Legend of the Hyderabad Award.
Nutrition plays very important role మనకు to prevent diseases.
Dr. Pratima, we can't hear you.
Maybe you should continue. Pratima might have had some internet issue.
So, Dr. Hemalatha has received the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Federation of the Asian Nutrition Societies and Legend of Hyderabad Award from Dr. Mohan's Group of Diabetes Specialty Centers, Chennai. So very, very fortunate, ma'am, to have you here with us today. And thank you for accepting our invitation. And over to you. We are eagerly waiting to hear what you have to say.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction.
Yeah, just a minute. All the audience, I request everyone to please mute themselves. Yes, ma'am, please go.
Yeah. Shall I share the screen?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
I think I lost contact. I hope I finished the introduction. Was the introduction heard, Amrita?
Yes.
Amrita, yeah.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. Thank you very much for this opportunity from Pan India. So I'll go straight to the dietary guidelines for Indians because it will take around 30 to 40 minutes presentation. I'll go a little detailed, but I may be a little slow also today that I'm not very well. Dietary intake plays a role as a key determinant of health. All of us know very well about this. And time and again, we have seen very close association between unhealthy diets and cardiovascular diseases, cancer, and many other diet-related non-communicable diseases. However, although we consistently see a relationship being present between unhealthy diet and non-communicable diseases, to know like what type of foods are healthy and what quantities of these foods we must consume to keep the disease rates low is difficult to assess. Therefore, the dietary guidelines help a lot and empower the people and also physicians and to make informed choice. So that is the main goal of this. It's not moving. Screen is not moving. Yeah. So a systematic analysis for the global burden of disease study has shown, just for example, I'm showing you, they have studied the impact of individual components of diet on all-cause mortality and disability-adjusted life years lost, that is disease burden. So low intake of whole grains was found to be one of the commonest leading dietary risk factor for deaths and DALYs globally. And 2/3 of diet-related deaths have been found to be due to low intake of fruits and vegetables. Remember, low intake of whole grains and low intake of vegetables and fruits. And of course, all of us know very well, sodium ranked first for mortality. When they assessed the risk for non-communicable diseases, they found a very close relationship with the red meat, processed meat, sugar-sweetened beverages, trans fatty acids, and sodium, and lower risk of NCDs with consumption of nuts, seeds, milk, and seafoods, and more fiber. So this is the background. It's all that I'm getting stuck.
Bhavani, can you just see what the problem is?
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, but
Screen is
slide,
not moving.
can you, yeah, Bhavani, can you move the slide forward?
From our side, we can't move the slide forward.
Ma'am's system only she has to.
I can attach if you want. I've sent it. I have sent it.
Just forward the PPT to me. From my side, I'll just present.
Yeah, I'll forward it, yeah.
I think from here you can do it, ma'am. Hello. From
I
the
sent it
PPT?
to you. I sent it to you. Nevertheless, I'll try to share from here also.
Okay. Okay. Done.
Now you can see it again, right? Now it's moving better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Previous one was PDF, therefore it was not moving. Okay. So
Yeah.
now I was just describing you all about the large study that was done in 142 or more, 195 countries, where they showed association of what kind of unhealthy dietary habits lead to increased mortality and lead to increased DALYs and lower risk of NCDs. So after this, I would like to show you all what kind of, what is the food pattern that is being generally consumed among urban and rural India. So on the left side, you see the urban plate, and on the right side, you are seeing the rural plate. When we collected the data through 24-hour diet recall, when we presented the data this way, you can see very clearly consumption of refined rice is much higher compared to other grains, and consumption of vegetables is lower compared to what is being generally recommended. And apparently it appears as though urban people are consuming less of refined grain compared to rural people here on the right side. But actually, if you see the processed food, that is chips, biscuits, ice creams, and other ingredients, processed food on this side, you see the quantity of refined grain intake might be quite a lot among the urban population as well. So intake of vegetables is lower. It is better compared to the rural population. Urban is better relatively, but then the consumption of processed food is much higher among urban. But even the rural people are not staying behind. Even there the consumption is increasing. Actually, this data is very old, but right now N9 is collecting more recent data on 24-hour diet recall from all the states, which will give actual picture of diet intake now. This is the old one, 2012. So what India is eating currently is calories are primarily from refined grains, including ourselves, refined carbs. So low intake of pulses, legumes, vegetables, fruits, nuts, and oils. This is what we found in our data. Then low intake of milk and curd, lack of dietary diversity. We stick to only 3 to 4. And infant and young children diets are also very poor. So the impact of unhealthy diets in our country must be beginning right from fetal age and continue into old age. The chronic illnesses that we see, like diabetes, hypertension, in adulthood reflects actually the cumulative effect of unhealthy diet right from fetal life, young infants, age, and children. So what are the goals of dietary guidelines? It provides evidence-based recommendations on healthy and nutritionally adequate diet that promotes growth and development. So it also nutritional adequacy and promotes growth and development, but it also focuses on disease prevention rather than disease treatment. And it provides the government with a consistent approach for nutrition policy. All these dietary guidelines are used very widely by nutrition norms and nutrition programs in our country, like ICDS, PDS, and midday meal programs and all. We regularly we give data from these recommendations for the government and help them decide about the minimum wages and also about the nutrition norms and all the nutrition programs that are currently running in our country. So having, the last guidelines was released in 2011, 2098, and then 1998, and then 2011. And the latest one, that is, we released in May 2024. Why did we release the latest one? That is because there has been drastic change in the last 10 years regarding the food intake in our country. And also we had more recent data on Indian food composition table, that is nutritive value of Indian foods, both macro and micronutrients from 560 different foods from different corners of our country. Around 160 nutrients were evaluated. This is a more recent data released in 2017. Now, this data was, chemically evaluated in NIM. And then we also have nutrient requirements for Indians, which was released in 2020. And based on the data that are available here, and also based on the data globally available with respect to diseases and foods, we have developed the dietary guidelines for Indians. Now, what are the differences between 2011 and 2024 is here, although there are many differences, I'll go through just the important ones. Here we have introduced the concept of what it means when you call high fat, high sugar, high salt food, HFSS foods, high fat, salt and sugar foods, which was not there in the earlier guideline. And we improved the cereal pulse ratio to improve the quality of protein and also to increase the fiber intake and other nutrients. Then categorization of foods based on processing level and FHSS levels. Then we introduce a concept of my plate for the day for Indians, and the new guidelines on protein and food labeling, which were not there earlier, also got introduced in the current guideline. So the basis for this, the theme for this was based on the dietary guidelines for, my plate for the day. Very visually appealing this thing. Even at one look, you'll know that you're supposed to take more than 50% of your grain should be whole grains, and vegetables and fruits, including fruits, it should be at least 50% of the raw weight. 50% of the weight, if you see 400 grams of minimum vegetables one should consume in a day, and raw weight fruits 100 grams. Then similarly, we have, and this is for 2000 kilocalories that we have developed. And based on this theme, we have developed balanced diet across all life stages in the dietary guidelines for Indians. So this is just to give an example to show the my plate for the day that we have given here. When we calculated the nutrients, macro and micronutrients, we have seen that it is falling well within the recommended ranges of macronutrients. And also when we have done optimizing linear optimization, we have seen that most of the micronutrients we are reaching if we follow this kind of diet. For vegetarians and non-vegetarians, we have given here. And if you remember, calories from carbohydrate should be limited to 55%. 50, lower level should be 50, upper level 55%. And it should be from complex carbohydrates, and fat not more than 30%. And protein, of course, 10 to 15%. So what are the principles of dietary guidelines? So here the cereal pulse ratio has been increased to 3:1. So if you take 3 parts cereal, 1 part pulse must be taken, especially if you're a vegetarian. If you're a non-vegetarian, probably this ratio can be decreased a little. And then at least 50% of total cereals as whole grains. Then inclusion of 20 to 40 grams nuts and oil seeds for essential fatty acids in a day, 20 to 40 grams in a day. 400 gram vegetables, 100 gram whole fruits again, 300 ml fermented milk. Fresh foods in moderation to be initiated right from 6 months of age. We have given restriction on added sugar, cooking oils, trans fatty acids, sodium. And added sugar, we have very clearly mentioned that it should not be added for children who are less than 2 years. Better to avoid for less than 2-year-old kids. Then also a guideline on physical activity. To reach, how do we reach this level? To reach this level, we have to very cleverly include fresh vegetables and green leafy vegetables in every meal. Only then we can reach that 400 gram level, and at least 30 grams of fruits in every meal. The reason being, if you include fruits in meals, it improves your micronutrient absorption, especially iron, zinc, and many other essential minerals are absorbed better when you include fruit in your meal. Whole grains for adequate nutrition fiber, cereal, pulse, beans, combination diets. Better to take combination diets. For example, I can give you one very good example. Like, for example, just take pizzas and burgers. They are just cereal based. no pulses there. So it's not very healthy. Similarly, in our own Indian diets also, aloo puri. Instead of aloo puri, chole puri would be a better combination, and it becomes healthy. I mean, puri, of course, too much oil is there, but otherwise, including pulse there improves the quality of the diet. Consuming adequate quantities of nuts, restricting meal frequency to 2 to 3 times a day, avoiding ultra-processed foods or minimizing them, and HFSS foods as well. Avoiding sugar or restricting to 20 to 25 grams per day. This is for adults who are consuming 2000 kilocalories. Most ladies may not be consuming 2000 kilocalories. Therefore, our sugar intake will be lesser than this. Then snacking in between and consuming, avoid snacking in between, but consume healthy beverages. Then what can be a healthy snack? An ideal healthy snack consists of vegetables or fruit salads adorned with seeds or nuts, topped with yogurt. Additionally, roasted or boiled beans, lobia, chickpeas, and peanuts can serve as nutritious snack options, like what we used to do in olden days in India. I mean, if you want, as a small child, I still remember, if you want to have any snacks, generally it will be boiled lobia, boiled beans, chickpeas, and roasted peanuts, even without salt, we used to consume. The guideline, that is about the guideline 1, and the guideline 2 describes about what are important nutrients for pregnancy. And apart from iron and folic acid and B12, we have also placed emphasis on N3 PUFAs, long chain N3 PUFAs, because these are very, very critical for fetal development, appropriate fetal development, brain development, including eye. Also green leafy vegetables. And we have given enough advice, if they are vegetarians, what kind of foods will meet the needs of N3 PUFAs, and what if non-vegetarian, what kind of foods to be taken for meeting the levels of long chain PUFA. Then we have also given a lot of importance to pre-pregnancy nutrition, because at the time of pregnancy, if the mother's nutrition status is not appropriate, either undernourishment or overweight, obesity, or if the mother is anemic or poor in micronutrients, there is hardly any time for her to correct her nutrition status once she enters into pregnancy, because the cells are rapidly multiplying, and very soon she reaches, and that too during the first 12 weeks, we cannot even give any medication, only after 12 weeks. Therefore, it would be wise to take care of nutrition status and health status before the woman enters into pregnancy. That is called, apart from 1000 days, beyond 1000 days, that is before 1000 days, before the woman even conceives, she has to take care of nutrition status and health status. Then we have 3 to 5 runs into all the healthy diet preparations. We have given menus and meals and quantities and qualities also for children, along with physical activity guideline. Then guideline 6 talks about eat plenty of vegetables and legumes. To achieve consumption, I have already mentioned this, of at least 400 grams of vegetables per day. Include fresh vegetables and green leafy vegetables in every meal, and prefer root vegetables to tubers. Then incorporate GLVs in complementary feeds of infants as well. Generally, we don't do this. And increase intake of vegetables and fruits during pregnancy. And people many a time they ask, because fruits are natural, sugarcane is also natural, wholesome food, can we take it in larger quantities? Actually, the point here one should notice, if you take whole fruits, fruits also have a lot of free sugars. So if you consume whole fruits, you won't be going more than 1 or 2. If it is citrus fruit or it is apple, anything, you won't be going more than 2 fruits. But if you start taking juices, including the sugarcane juice, you tend to consume more than what is required. For example, a citrus fruit, even 4 fruits juice can be extracted and taken, even if it is fresh juice. So even if it is fresh juice, not a processed or preserved one, I would prefer whole fruits compared to juices. Why? Because when you take whole fruits, you restrict the quantity of fruits that you take. Again, fruits also contain a lot of free sugars. So you should not be consuming more than required. So is the case with sugarcane as well. So when we take the data, this is just to remind you that the vegetable intake in urban and rural population, how low it is among Indians. While the green horizontal line shows the recommended levels, minimum recommended levels, the quantity that is being consumed is much, much lower, both in urban, and blue is urban, and orange is rural population, both for vegetables and fruits and milk. And why it is important? See, very low intake of vegetables and fruits can cause undernourishment as well, because these are rich in micronutrients and phytophenols, and help appropriate utilization of macronutrients from cereals and pulses. Therefore, it can cause undernourishment. At the same time, low intake of vegetable and fruits can cause overweight, obesity, and also increase the risk of diet-related non-communicable diseases like type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular diseases. Like a study from 142 countries, a meta-analysis has clearly shown association of low intake of vegetables and fruits with cardiovascular diseases and cancer as well. And there was a dose-response relationship between prevalence of cancer and intake of, as the intake of vegetables and fruits increases, the prevalence of cancer is coming down in that population. So you can imagine how important role vegetables and fruits can play in your life. It can curtail undernourishment and anemia. At the same time, it also can prevent overweight, obesity, and also diet-related communicable diseases. And milk products, yes, it helps regulate blood pressure. So at least moderate quantities of 200-250 ml should be taken. Now, coming to recommendation on carbohydrates and restriction on sugar, like total calories from carbs should be restricted to 50 to 55% of total energy per day. Again, this is science-based because a huge study has shown that the mortality is lowest when calorie is restricted from 50 to 55%. If you take calories from carbohydrates lower than 50%, mortality rate increases. And if it goes beyond 55%, again, the mortality rate goes higher. So 50 to 55% has been found to be ideal. This is the macronutrient distribution range in a healthy population. Then free sugar should be less than 5% of total calories per day, which includes all added sugar and sugar present in honey. No, I mean, this is a little bit of mistake is there. And sugar to be avoided among the under 2. Then alternatives can be water, fresh lime juice water, shea or basil seeds soaked in water, buttermilk, tender coconut water, and low-fat milk as well. Then sweets, homemade or otherwise, should be restricted. But homemade, if it is made with whole grains and all, it is preferred over the processed, highly processed ready-made sweets. Then encourage reading of food labels to examine sugar content, which is, I mean, sugar contents are not written very well. So you have to be intelligent enough and should be conversant with how to read the labels. I mean, most youngsters look at labels for calories, mostly for calories, then expiry date. These are the two things we look at. And thirdly, of course, price. But there are more important information that can be available on the food labels. One should read carefully. Then artificial sweetness should be restricted. Now, why reduce sugar? Sugar leads to weight gain with all its complication of diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. But please remember, in India, even without weight gain, one can develop complications of, one can develop diabetes, heart disease, and cancer because we have more fat percent. We have more risk of developing abdominal obesity. Even though overweight obesity is there among Indian population, we don't have overall. We generally have more abdominal fat, which has higher risk for non-communicable diseases than overall obesity. So sugar increases risk of diabetes independent of weight gain. So we should not think only through weight gain we can have higher risk of diabetes. Even otherwise also we stand at a higher risk of diabetes. Then CHO, carbohydrate from whole grains, legumes, vegetables, and whole fruits are associated with reduced risk of type 2 diabetes. That is legumes, vegetables, what I have already said, type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular diseases. And also to halt the rise in diabetes and related risks like stroke, CVDs, and reduce the burden of premature deaths due to NCDs by 25% by 2025, as per the WHO, wherein we are also a member country. We need to follow these regulations. Then at least a recommendation on dietary fats, 30% of the total fat per day, at least 15%. Here, all of you know very well that fat should be restricted to 30% per day, 30% of total energy. And the 15% will come from protein. Now, what the point I'm trying to make here is, of the total 30% of total energy from fat per day, at least 15% of total energy should come from fats integrated in foods. So we should not think that this total 30% can come from all the cooking oils, ghee, butter, and all. No, it should be restricted to only 15%. And rest of the 15% of this 30% should come from fats that are integrated in foods. What are those that are integrated in foods? All the nuts and oil seeds that are given on the right side corner. Okay, all the oil seeds, nuts like almonds, walnuts, fish, if you're a non-vegetarian, fatty fish, and many of the seeds. I mean, when you take oil seeds and nuts, they give a combination of N3 and N6 POFAs, and not just the N6 POFAs that you generally get from cooking oil. Then estimated requirement of POFA is actually 3% of energy per day. I mean, what the body, because this is essential fatty acid. Our body does not synthesize N6 or N3 fatty acid. Therefore, we need to get them from diet. That diet, even the requirement is only 6.6 grams per day for an adult who is consuming 2000 kilocalories and 2.2 grams per day of N3 PUFA for those who are consuming 2000 kilocalories. So the level is actually very low. But if you increase the N6 fatty acid consumption through consuming lots of vegetable cooking oils, then your requirement for N3 also increases, which is very, very difficult to meet because N3 is not available in all foods. It's available only in green leafy vegetables and certain nuts and oil seeds like flax seeds, walnuts. So very, very few seeds and nuts are having N3, whereas N6 fatty acid is present in almost all the foods that we eat. So cooking oils must be restricted to meet adequacy in ALA, that is alpha linolenic acid, that is N3 fatty acid. N6 PUFA is available in all foods and N3 is available only in these foods. Then TFA trans fatty acid should be restricted to less than 1% of total energy per day. All of us know very well about this. Like TFAs, generally we consume in most of the bakery foods, it's available, but then if we restrict those, we'll restrict less. Now coming to recommendation of dietary protein. So look at the protein recommendation, the nutrient requirements for Indians, which was released in 2020. If you look at it carefully, is there any difference from men and women? No. Is there any difference between physical activity, sedentary activity, moderate, and heavy workers, heavy activity workers? So if you look at activity level, or if you look at between men and women, the requirement is only 0.66 grams per kg per day as estimated average requirement. And the upper limit is going to 0.83 grams per kg body weight per day. And this recommendation is for good quality protein, wherein you take good levels of cereal pulse and you take at least 250 ml of milk. Then this recommendation is quite good. But if people do not take any non-vegetarian food and if they do not take any milk, it goes up to 1 gram per kg body weight per day. Otherwise, just 0.66, 0.83 grams per kg body weight will do good. And it is based on body weight. If you're 65, your body weight is 65 kgs and your body weight is 65 kgs, then it is 0.66 grams per kg per day. So please remember, it is not based on activity level. It is not based on gender, but it is certainly based on your body weight level. So this I have already mentioned. This is the EAR 0.66 grams, 0.83 is the RDA, recommended dietary allowance. And this translates to an EAR of 43 grams per day, only 43 grams per day, or RD of 54 grams per day for a person weighing 65 kgs. If you are weighing 65 kgs, your level of requirement is only 43 grams per day. And most of this is generally comes from all the foods that we take, cereals and pulses and all. And if you add a little bit of non-vegetarian, that is around 400 to 600 grams per week, that will completely fulfill the needs of protein. Even if you're a vegetarian, if you're consuming all the cereal pulse ratio that has been recommended, along with around 2 to 250 ml of milk, it will suffice and take care of the needs of the protein per day. Then also it's important to remember, nowadays there is a lot of myth about protein intake. Many young people, even older adults also, when they go for gym and all, they consume lots of pure protein. But if you look at this first sentence carefully, you see the protein is not consumed appropriately, not utilized properly if non-protein energy from carbohydrates and fat is not available. So nitrogen balance improves, protein utilization improves by 1 milligram per kg per day for every extra 1 kilocal per kg per day from non-protein energy sources. Reduction in energy intake by 20% results in negative nitrogen balance. So just consuming extracted pure protein is actually not going to help much unless you take energy from carbohydrates and fats as well for appropriate utilization of energy from protein. The P ratio also changes. It can range from 5 to 15 depending on the calorie that you take. Protein quality, I have already mentioned. Then again, please note, regular physical activity is extremely important to maintain your muscle mass and also to build your muscle mass. Without physical activity, any amount of protein you consume, it is going to be converted to energy, or you're going to convert that into fat and deposit fat. So protein consumption should be associated with regular physical activity if one is interested for muscle building and even for maintaining muscle mass, which is very, very, very important for prevention of non-communicable chronic diseases. Maintenance of muscle mass is extremely important. avoid protein supplements. So this is just to show you how diet-related NCTs affect all socioeconomic classes and rural and urban population. And it can be due to inappropriate intake of fats, inappropriate intake of refined carbs, carbohydrate, and even protein. All these three micronutrients can lead to fatty liver disease and associated disorders, insulin resistance, diabetes type 2, and many other non-communicable chronic diseases. Now, in 2021 report shows that chocolates and sugar confectionery dominate the market share, and 45% of the total ultra-processed foods are actually biscuits. And often we give our children I mean, even if you go to the rural population, tribal population, women have the habit of giving biscuits to their children rather than any healthy food. Then low intake of vegetables coupled with ultra-processed food consumption is very, I mean, we stand at a very high risk of this kind of combination, low intake of vegetables and high intake of UPF. At least you take ultra-processed food, but if you take adequate quantity of vegetables, that will take care of your health. Diminished physical activity, then sugar and fructose, refined carbs, and excessive consumption of extracted fats, oils lead to fatty liver, IR, insulin resistance, diabetes type 2, and related risks. Protein mania is a new diet obsession. Excessive protein has no additional benefit, but then it can cause regular intake of high quantities of extracted proteins can cause osteoporosis because it leaches the calcium from the bone to counter the acid that is released due to excessive protein intake, and it can also take a toll on renal function. The share of deaths due to NCTs has increased consistently. Then Guideline 9 shows about how we can convert. I mean, it is about abdominal obesity, which is very highly prevalent among our population. 50% of our population in urban and slightly lower level of proportion among rural population have abdominal obesity. Just imagine 50% of us have abdominal obesity. That is, fat is there in our peritoneum, in our abdomen. And therefore, we stand at a much higher risk of developing most of the non-communicable chronic diseases. Overweight, swap unhealthy with healthy foods. We have given examples of how you can be careful in swapping unhealthy with healthy beverages as well as snack items as well. And also the physical activity in the Guideline 10. So Guideline 11 to 14, we talk about salt restriction, clean and safe food, cooking methods and utensils that can be used, and adequate water consumption. And here for the first time, we have nicely categorized the food based on the processing level. So A is least processed one, just minimally processed one, which generally we consume regularly. And among A group foods, which are not processed, which are minimally processed also, one can have high fat food and one can have just recommended level of food. So within the group A food, we have categorized them into A1, A2, A3, that is slightly higher in fat, sugar and salt, very much higher in fat, sugar and salt. Therefore, the calorie is also much higher. So anything beyond 500 kilocalories per 100 grams of cooked food, we call it as HFSS food. Anything beyond 250 to 500 kilocalories for 100 grams of cooked food comes within the moderate, high fat, high sugar, salt food. And this is the recommended level. I mean, this is based again on my plate for the day, wherein if you calculate the raw quantities and the cooked quantities, generally it comes to 100 grams of raw quantities give 170 kilocalories per 100 grams. But if you cook it, generally 100 grams of cooked food gives you, if it is very healthy, it gives you only 100 to 120 kilocalories per day. So, but we have given an allowance of 250. So similarly, group B food, which is moderately processed, group C foods, which heavily processed food. This is group C foods comes, all the ultra processed foods come under this. You may be thinking ultra processed food are not, generally we don't consume, but most of the biscuits come under this category. Biscuits, cakes, pastries, which have high shelf life and all, most of these foods. And also the spices that we use regularly at home, all these come under ultra processed food. Minimize the consumption, and then we have given the levels of salt, added sugar, added fat, total sugar, total fat, and nicely we have described how, I mean, tomorrow, even if regulation comes up, it will be easy for companies to estimate the levels because we have given for added as well as for total sugar and total fats. So this is for liquids and this is for solids. For elderly also we have given. Elderly, the problem is generally absorption will reduce. Therefore, they have to take more nutritious foods. And another important problem is, especially in India, physical activity is very low among elderly population. It's extremely important for elderly population to follow a regular routine of physical activity to maintain the muscle mass. Otherwise, there is slow deterioration of muscle mass, and therefore our basal metabolic rate comes down. So 0.7, generally what happens is right from the age of 35 to 40, we start our energy consumption. The basal metabolic rate comes down every year. And recent study found a 0.7% decrease in metabolism per year. Remember, per year it is. So if you maintain your physical activity and try to maintain the muscle that you have, probably this can be delayed, the loss of basal metabolic rate. If you have low basal metabolic rate, we tend to put on weight. We tend to put on more fat and all, which are again not very healthy. Need fewer calories but more micronutrients, require less energy but more micronutrients. Then regular physical activity helps to maintain muscle mass. Also bone density. Bone density will not be maintained if you don't do regular physical activity. Then maintains body weight, improves brain function as well as, which is very, very important component. Nowadays, Alzheimer's disease is also increasing, and keeping a regular routine of physical activity improves brain function and also reduces risk or progression of degenerative diseases like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and all. So the last guideline is read information on food labels to make informed and healthy food choices. Very beautifully, we have explained how one should approach while reading the food label. Now, this is the cost of our my plate for the day. We have made an estimate, and it's coming to around 2,000 rupees if it is vegetarian, and around 2,400 rupees if it is non-vegetarian food per month per individual, around 2,000. I mean, if you try to collect only locally available foods and all, where transportation charges are not there, then you're doing a lot of good to your own body, also to the environment. So as per the FAO, healthy diets are sustainable diets. They should be not only nutritionally adequate, but also safe and healthy. They should promote healthy life for present and future generations as well. Because if we are healthy, our future generations also be healthy. Also, if you consume healthy, you're not only doing good to your body and your baby, but also to your body and the environment. That one should keep in mind. So there is low environmental impact whenever we consume healthy foods. Then protective and respectful of biodiversity and ecosystem. Generally, this happens whenever we take low levels of very low ultra processed foods and low levels of HFSS foods and all. When we resort to healthy foods, generally our greenhouse gas emission is restricted. So we are doing a lot of good to the planet as well. Then it should be, of course, culturally acceptable and accessible and economically fair and affordable. What we feel is, what the calculation that we have done shows that it is affordable if judiciously we try to consume locally available foods and seasonally available foods, because they won't be expensive if they are seasonally available and they're locally available. Then policy reforms are required, because right now the food system in India is quite bizarre. A shift in cropping pattern towards coarse cereals is required. Legumes and vegetables is also required. Actually, we are first in production of several items, fruits, milk, many sugar also. But when it comes to consumption pattern, if you see, the per capita consumption is very low with respect to vegetables, legumes, and also coarse cereals. Nutrition should be central to the agriculture food supply policy making. Food norms in ICDS and MDM, these are changing actually. I have already mentioned, we have revised the National Food Security Act, and we have improved the food basket of children and pregnant women. So this is being slowly improved. Each state is trying to implement these NFSA Act that was revised in 2023, along with the Ministry of Consumer Affairs and Food Distribution. The nutrition information from primary classes. Yeah, this also is very, earlier days we used to have, but nowadays children do not get to learn anything about nutrition. At least they have some PT class, but regarding food, they hardly know anything. Some children don't even know how wheat looks, or how a whole grain like rice also looks, with the how paddy looks. They are so much naive and they do not know anything about nutrition nowadays, school children. So it will be important to make a nice syllabus and include nutrition information right from primary classes, schools, colleges, work environment regulations to prevent unhealthy food available around the environment to a certain number of kilometers. Then government regulations are very, very important on advertisements, which are very appealing. Even as adults, we ourselves get tempted when we see very good, nice advertisement on TV, lots of social media and TV. Nowadays they have many channels to attack children with unhealthy foods. Then food labeling, if it is regulated, even this will help us a lot in trying to make informed choice. Food taxes also, subsidies also. I mean, the government can see that they subsidize foods that are healthy. They can subsidize foods in food industry for the companies who come up with healthy options, and tax more when it comes to HFSS foods or ultra processed foods. But currently what's happening is ultra processed foods are much cheaper. HFSS foods are much cheaper than your healthy food. And availability also. You go to any corner of village or tribal regions, you will find, sugar sweetened beverages will be easily available, and all the biscuits and kurkures will be available, but it will be difficult to find healthy food options like fruits, whole fruits and vegetables. It may be more expensive also. Then industry also should come up with innovation in food processing technologies, because right now food processing, I mean, eliminates the fiber, naturally available fiber in food, and also 50 to 90% of nutrients, micronutrients are lost while processing foods. So when you consume processed food, it is important to remember that you're eating foods that are depleted in quite a significant proportion of fiber is depleted, and micronutrients also. So they have to come up with innovation to do processing, but at the same time preserve the naturally available micronutrients and fiber in the foods, which will do a lot of good to our health. Way forward is promote and incentivize the production, marketing, and sale of healthier food option. Create partnership with supermarkets to prominently display and promote healthier food alternatives. This has actually worked in certain countries. Trying to work closely with supermarkets do help in selecting healthier food options compared to highly processed one. Then supporting local and sustainable food systems, like encourage local food production distribution networks to increase availability of fresh foods, provide financial and logistical support to small scale farmers, and also minimum support price should be given to small scale farmers when they support our requirement for healthy foods. Then foods and celebrate local and regional flavors, because we are slowly losing all the menus and the preparation that we used to do once upon a time, maybe 50 or 100 years back. We should celebrate these things so that the younger generation learn and follow this. It's important we don't lose our culture. Then foster community-led initiatives that promote healthy eating habits, support grassroots efforts to increase access to affordable nutritious foods in underserved areas, try to promote local kitchen gardens, try to support them. Then data collection, yeah, this is also very important. We have to invest in research to monitor trends in food consumption and health. Currently, NIN is doing this work. In all states, we are collecting food consumption pattern, physical activity pattern, and also their health biomarkers like blood sugar, anemia, and blood pressure, etc. So this data that is going to be completed by this year end will be available for all the stakeholders by next year. Maybe mid next year, the data will be analyzed and presented. Then we have, implement policies gradually to allow stakeholders time to adjust and comply. All of a sudden, we can't implement all the regulations. Then pilot programs in specific regions or communities to test effectiveness before scaling up nationwide. So these are some of the suggestions that we have. For different age groups and different body weights, we have given the quantities of cereals and pulses that one can consume depending on the body weight and physical activity again. Now, this is the DGI committee, and thank you very much for your time and for the opportunity. Thank you very much. Any questions I'm open to take. This is the committee, huge committee that sat. We had more than 50 odd meetings that were held, and we hardly spent any money because most often the meetings were we were ferrying experts available locally, and those who were not available locally, we used to have virtual meetings. So like that, more than 50 meetings were held, and we reviewed all the data available within our country and globally. Thousands of studies were reviewed before we came up with the required with the recommendations that we have made in Dietary Guidelines for India. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bhavani, can you please unmute Dr. Veena? She will be asking the questions from the chat box.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for that. It's really an honor to hear it from you. You played a vital role in developing the guidelines, and they were released only 2 months back. And we are really fortunate to get this presentation from you. Dr. Veena will take some questions from the audience.
So good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
One of the questions was, why is the protein RDA reduced in the newer guidelines?
We didn't reduce.
I thought it was same, but I wanted you
No,
to, yeah,
it is not reduced.
13%.
Please note,
Yes,
the earlier guideline talks about 1 gram per kg body weight per day. Your observation is
Mhm.
correct. 1 gram per kg per day, body weight per day, but that talks about low quality food. I mean, here, why should we recommend protein for low quality food? Why should we be consuming low quality food? So we have made a recommendation of 0.66, 0.83, that is EAR and RDA for high quality food, which includes appropriate combination of cereals and pulses with adequate amount of milk and weekly intake of moderate amount of non-vegetarian food.
Thank you,
I mean,
ma'am. And
the reason that they gave was it is low cost food. So low cost food, they reduce the quality of food and they increase the protein to 1 gram per kg body weight per day. Even now we say the same thing. If you are consuming not very good quality of a ratio of cereal protein and no non-vegetarian, no milk in your diet, your requirement goes up to 1 gram per kg body weight per day. But then your utilization is best only when you have little bit of animal source protein also. Yeah, thank you.
thank you, ma'am. And when you say 0.83 grams per kilogram, is it for ideal weight or the actual weight of the person?
Actual weight,
Okay.
65, yeah.
Okay. And why is there no RDA for energy?
Energy,
I suppose that's,
there won't be any RDA anywhere globally, you see, because energy is only for, I mean, appropriate, just that much. So
okay.
for
Okay.
energy, it's only EAR.
So when you talk about fruits as 30 grams, is it the same what if there is an underlying undiagnosed metabolic syndrome? Should that be, should they have a different amount of fruit intake?
Two answers are here. 30 grams means actually 100 gram fruits we recommend, minimum 100 grams. That can be divided into 35 grams per meal. That is what we said. But the total is 100 grams per day. Now, coming to metabolic disorders, there are many types of metabolic disorders. There, see, dietary guidelines for Indians is for healthy population. When it comes to metabolic disorders, then even the inflammatory bowel disease conditions and all, your diet is totally different. I mean, you have to take low fiber, you have to take supplements there because you are not going to meet all the required nutrients because you're not taking healthy food. Metabolic disorders, like, I mean, the condition is totally different. There, the recommendation will change.
Okay. This is for healthy adults that we are talking about when you talk
Healthy
about
adults,
guidelines.
healthy children,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Ma'am,
Prevent-
yeah. What is your inputs on current trend of low carb diets? But I suppose that is not the purview of today's talk. Low carbohydrate diets.
As per the science, you have to consume 50 to 55% energy from carbohydrates because your brain function also improves with intake of energy from carbohydrates. But then you should remember it should not be from highly refined grains or sugar. This should come from complex carbohydrates. Now, non-starch polysaccharides also will contribute a lot. NPS, NSPs, non-starch polysaccharides, which are, I mean, all the pulses and legumes and beans contain high levels of NSPs, non-starch polysaccharides, which is good for health.
Okay, ma'am. In India, we have more cases of anemia and diabetes. Is it because in anemia, HbA1c can be falsely high? I don't
How
think
it
that
can
is
be falsely
correct.
high, I don't understand.
Yes.
HbA1c, I don't know the mechanism. You can explain me.
Yes. Okay, ma'am.
It indicates 3 months. See, HbA1c is
Yeah.
what the red blood cell lifespan is 3 months. During the 3 months, it accumulates the sugar that we take. Every day, blood sugar gets deposited in our RBCs. That is what is reflected in the HbA1c. So your last 3 months sugar level is shown in the HbA1c. It cannot be false.
Ma'am, if there is a deficiency of vitamins, how many times the RDA should we give? Double it or more for these vitamins?
RDA specifically for this reason, like if you go to a physician and if you have deficiency of certain micronutrients, like say, for example, vitamin A or vitamin D, generally we come across lots of vitamin D deficient individuals nowadays. So multiplications of RDAs can be given. So that depends on the level of deficiency that you have. That depends on the physician who is looking after you. So we cannot say it should be 2 times or 3 times. It can be much more than that also, but it depends on how long you're going to take and how deficient you are.
Okay. Ma'am, your take or suggestion on artificial sweeteners. Can they be used, and if at all, how much?
See, generally what's happening is artificial sweeteners, most people, I mean, most companies, food industries use, and they generally fall within the level recommended by the FSSAI. The FSSAI data mostly comes from NIN and other research data. And if it is consumed at within the given limit, it generally is not supposed to cause any adverse effects. But if you consume every day large quantities of those foods that are having artificial sweetener, definitely it will take a toll on your health.
Ma'am, if some people make diabetic friendly food claims, is there any regulation on this? Saying that some type of food is good for diabetic.
Yeah, regulation must be there. People unnecessarily get carried away with this diabetes friendly foods. What is diabetes friendly food? Include lot of vegetables in your food, include lot of whole grains in your food, and take appropriate quantities of pulses or beans that I said 3:1 ratio. That becomes your diabetic friendly food. Because when you eat a combination of all these food groups in your meal, you're not going to have high spikes of sugar at all. And this is not just for diabetics, even for healthy population, we should follow this routine. Take different food groups in a meal. Don't just take one type, just cereals. So diabetic friendly foods are, I mean, just
marketing gimmick.
Marketing gimmick, that's all. Yeah, at home also you can make diabetic friendly food by combining all this and taking whole grains.
Oh, does NIN take into consideration the quality of milk?
We have not done any study on that, but there are lots of I mean, small dissertation work studies are there, not rigorous research study. They say there are contaminations, but we do not know. I can't comment on that because scientifically we have no data on that.
Is there a reason why chronic kidney disease is rising in the present days, especially in men over 50?
It is increasing. What you said is right. I mean, that is what our diet and biomarker study will also estimate the level of contaminants in our food, cooked food that we eat. There could be heavy metal contamination. It's like lead. Heavy metal contamination also can lead to this. Another important reason is heavy consumption of anti-inflammatory drugs.
Yes, ma'am.
So regular consumption of anti-inflammatory drugs also can increase the risk of kidney disease. That is one.
People are over the counter using this kind of drugs.
Yeah, food contamination is second thing. And third thing is taking lots of supplements. Some of the supplements have high levels of cyanide also, the B complex. I mean, we have to check the labels and see even when we are consuming the regular B complex vitamins also, there are so many things that are there which are not supposed to be consumed every day.
And you also said that fascination for eating too much protein, ma'am, it can load the kidneys.
It can. Especially when you take every day and that too large quantities. I mean, nowadays people have a lot of upset. They think they drink one protein, this thing, and they develop the muscle. It's very wrong. It can get converted to energy and fat if you don't do physical activity. That to weight-bearing physical activity, not just aerobic exercises. It should be weight-bearing. Unless you give work to your muscle, it doesn't build, it doesn't grow, doesn't multiply.
Which formula is good for calculating the energy requirement? Harris-Benedict factor method or anything else?
Harrison.
Okay.
What
do you have
one Dr. Kaur, somebody, they have raised their hand.
Okay, ma'am. I'm just doing the Q&A.
Okay.
I'll get to her later.
Yeah, next question.
Yes, ma'am. Please throw light and suggestions on organic food and millets.
Organic foods and millets. See, this is again very, very important question. See, organic foods means even if they have a field, rice field, for example, even if they grow 30% of the rice organically without using pesticides, one can label their food as organic food. Actually, we are spending a lot of money buying organic food, at least for me, because I know the truth, I don't buy organic food. Better to buy ordinary regular food, wash them properly, remove all the pesticides. If it is fruits, wash them properly. Vegetables also, wash them before cutting, wash them thoroughly. Even rice, one should wash. I mean, we get fooled by market gimmicks that they are organically grown. 100%, I mean, 100% of the foods are grown organically means it is not believable, because regulation also says that you can market it as organic if you have 30% of food grown without pesticides, chemicals and all. And the second question is millet. Millets is being promoted left and right by the government and everyone, but unfortunately, they are all promoted in the form of product, not in the form of food. Right now, everywhere the small startups are coming up, and what they do again, they take the millet, leach it with leach out all the fiber, micronutrients, come up with all biscuits and kurkures, and again it is the same story. So when it comes to millet, yes, millet, we have to have a variety of foods, as I've already mentioned, within the same food group also, not just rice. We must have variety of other cereals and nutri-cereal, that is millets, but take it as wholesome, not as a processed product.
So you can use it as a grain rather than using in a processed form.
Yeah.
So when we plan diets, whether to use RDA values or 10 to 15% of total calorie intake, because there is a difference in the amount.
What is 10
Sorry,
to
ma'am.
15%?
That's why, ma'am. It seems to be, you don't seem to understand the question.
No. One question is, when you're planning meal for individuals or for population, you should take only EAR into consideration. Estimated average requirement level of nutrients into consideration. RDA should not be taken. If you take RDA, none of the balanced diet will give you RDA level of all nutrients. If you calculate for EAR, if you meet the EAR, it's more than enough. Automatically, some nutrients will go beyond EAR.
Okay, ma'am. In the vegetables and legumes guidelines, the daily recommendation for legumes is not mentioned. Can you please expand on that?
What are legumes?
Legumes,
for example,
dals and
see, for example, beans or dal. The inside one, that is the, it is a pulse.
Yes, ma'am.
Or bean. But the vegetable along with that is the legume, right? Am I right?
Yes.
Stalk is the legume. The stalk and the pods, they come under vegetables. Yeah. So when we recommend 400 grams vegetables, it includes the legumes also.
Okay, legumes, don't they mean, ma'am, all these like lobia, chana, which come
lobia,
under
chana, dried bean varieties, the lobia, chana that we buy in kgs in that dry form. These come under pulses and beans.
Pulses and beans.
They fulfill the requirement of beans, pulses variety. They have nutrient qualities that match the pulses. Legumes are different. Legumes are the green ones. Yeah, fresh ones. They come under vegetables.
Nowadays, it's a trend to be a vegan. Is it healthy or recommended, ma'am?
Vegan means, see, 250 ml milk that we recommend also will not be taken by vegans. So when we calculated the protein requirement, actually 3:1 we recommend, 3 parts cereal, 1 part pulse. And when we made the calculation for vegans, if they take 2:1, it is mostly meeting the requirement of protein. But vegans will have certain problems, like for example, B12 also. They won't be getting B12. If they are strict vegetarians, B12 is difficult to get. So they may have to take supplements of B12.
Okay. So I think last question, ma'am. There is a lot of confusion on atta also. Which one is good for daily cooking?
I mean, it should have whole grains. Mostly they say they are making atta from whole grains. But again, there also there is certain percentage, 70% or something. If they have whole grains 70%, they can label it as whole grains. So try to look at the label. If it is mentioning whole grains as per the FSSAI guideline, then you should.
Okay. I think we have come to the end of most of the questions.
Thank you. I forgot about my illness also. I really enjoyed.
Yes, ma'am. So, Dr. Amrita, should I conclude?
Ma'am, can I have a last question, please? Can I?
I think Dr. Gurdeep Kaur.
Yes. A very good evening, ma'am. I'm Gurdeep from AIMS, New Delhi. I have a small question regarding the protein part. As you said that while calculating for an individual, we have to go by ER requirements. So for a for a man of 65 kilos, the EAR should be around 43 grams and the RDA should be around 54 grams, right, ma'am? Now, in the table, what you have suggested for the food groups for a balanced diet, in which you have suggested that a 65 kilo man consuming around 2000 calories should be taking around 260 gram of cereal, 85 gram of pulses and green leafy vegetable, 100 gram, all that. If we go on for the calculation of protein, it amounts to, as you have calculated, around 72 grams, right, ma'am?
Correct.
That means while calculating, we are calculating up to say this 72 grams multiplied by 0.8 will give that RDA.
No.
Right? Because
see, whatever food you take, there is protein in it.
yes,
so
ma'am.
Generally, we are consuming more than what is required. But by the time it is utilized, absorbed and all, it is much lesser.
Okay, so that means it comes to the same thing, ma'am, the same old theory that 0.8 gram is the requirement, but because we take mixed quality, we have got to go to 1 gram, right? So we used to calculate according to 1 gram, right?
Yes,
but
yes.
Here also, the example what you have given for 65 kilos, the amount of protein calculated is 72 grams. So that means 72 gram multiplied by 0.8 gives you that 54 gram of RDA, right? So while calculating, it will anyway exceed up to 1 gram and above, and back calculation will give us around that.
See, I mean, one should remember all foods contain protein. That doesn't mean you require that much. You anyway consume. That will be converted to fat or energy. The excess protein that is there in your food will be converted to energy or fat. I mean, but what we actually require for maintenance is 0.66, 0.83.
Okay, ma'am, because if we calculate something like 2000 kilocalories or maybe even 1600 kilocalories, the minimum amount of protein which comes with including all the food groups comes to around 65 gram or so.
Yeah.
Right? It will not come around 54 gram or even 43.
Correct. See, estimated average requirement is the lower limit. It can go beyond that. All the nutrients for that matter. When you assess for whole foods, some nutrients will go beyond EAR, no problem. But the lower limit is EAR. While designing a healthy food for a given individual or for a given population group, you have to see that at least EAR is met. That is our duty. But protein will be going beyond EAR, no problem if it goes beyond EAR. Especially as long as it is coming from wholesome food, we should not bother. I think I made my point clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So I think we've had an exhaustive and a very enlightening session today. And as we come to the end of it, I'd like to express our, on behalf of Pan India, our very sincere gratitude for taking your time off amidst your busy schedule and your illness to address us about an extremely important subject, for which, in fact, many of us have very little training in our medical curriculum. So hopefully we hope to use this to improve our practices and help achieve, help our patients achieve the best of health. And thank you very much for this once again, ma'am, on behalf of PAN and on all behalf of all the participants.
Thank you.
And thank you, ma'am. Thank you, participants, for staying till the end and making it a lively discussion out of a very important webinar. Thank you once again.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, ma'am.